Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. How do you do, dear students? I hope that you are doing well. We commence with our third lecture in sociology. It is about the role of sociologist. There are three major roles: as a research scientist, as a policy consultant, as a technician, and as a teacher. The key terms that we are supposed to know are research, social policy, policy consultant, and technician. Sociology is all around us. Sociology in action. Sociology conducts social research. Social research at its best and in simple words can be defined as it is a systematic method of discovering new facts and verifying old ones with their sequence interrelationship and cost explanation. A social research may have one of the two objectives, maybe both, in one way or the other. Academic, utilitarian. It simply means, why do we conduct social research? The objective behind any and all social research can be purely academic or purely utilitarian or a blend of the two. If we just have to go in the pursuit of academic research, so pure academic research focuses at to find new propositions, to discover new facts, to propose and intimate knowledge for academicians. It is to revisit, verify, and try to explore the new frontiers of sociological knowledge, perspectives, thoughts, and applications. So, this is peer research, where we do not have to consider any particular social problem, and we are there to revisit or verify the existing body of knowledge or to find new propositions, to discover new facts, or to propose and intimate knowledge for academicians. The more we carry out such pure academic research, the more likely, the more objective, the more universal the body of knowledge gets to be. If we are to continue with utilitarian research, so a utilitarian research focuses at to find the various causes of social problem. What are the causes for a particular problem? To provide principles of problems solution, to give remedies for a social problem. Now, if we just go for a schematic or a diagram of the two, so academic research in sociology would give us new propositions, new facts, and ultimately new body of knowledge. New proposition, new facts, new knowledge. If it is of utilitarian nature, so sociological research of utilitarian nature would give us causes of problems, principles of problem solution, and solving social problems. Now, social policy. What is a social policy? In simple terms, we may say that social policy is the mechanism of how basic needs of social beings, humans, or obtained in a particular society, for example, security, education, work, health, recreation, and well being. A social policy is a roadmap that tells us how to acquire basic human needs within the existing social structures. Our basic human needs are security, education, work, health, recreation, and well being. It is a spectrum. These are the main colors. These are the main colors of our social spectrum. It doesn't necessarily mean that we do not have any particular social need other than the listed ones. It simply means that these are the main ones. Every social group, and by large, every human society has been made, has evolved to find an answer of consensus to these basic human needs. How are they to be defined and obtained? Social policy is a prism of how closely states and societies are connected. A state is the political, social structure, a country, a sovereign state, and half they, when I say they, I mean states and societies in their interrelationship to each other. Social policy is a prism of how closely states and societies are connected and how they respond to influencing factors of social, economic, and demographic change. A social policy addresses the reflections of poverty, migration, and globalization. It means we need to understand what are the basic dynamics of social policy. A social policy tells us how closely states and societies are connected and how they respond to influencing factors, factors that would influence both of these states as well as societies. Now, these influencing factors of change can be social, economic, and demographic. A social policy addresses the reflections of poverty, migration, and globalization. If we just look all around ourselves, we find that poverty, migration, and globalization are conspicuously, clearly there, whether we look at the micro level or the macro level, at micro sociological and macro sociological. In both these perspectives, we find that due to poverty, migration, and globalization, there are countless changes taking place in our social structures, in our social lives. A social policy is the result of continued social research and practice. Social policy making is complex and dynamic in nature. Social policy intersects public policy. These are like the two discrete and definite sets in mathematics. If we just have a set like A, B, C, and another set C, D, E. So they are intersecting in nature as there is a member C which is found in both these sets. In the similar fashion, social policy and public policy are overlapped. They have things in common as well. It's complex. We won't go into the minute and fine details of how these are going to work together, but here I'm just going to let you have a working mechanics of how a social policy is framed and how it is going to work. If we just begin with social policy outputs, when we say social policy outputs, these are the outcomes, these are the objectives that we need to acquire or that we need to obtain. And here, international superstate influences. These are the dynamic or influencing factors above, beyond state. So, war, globalization, global civil society, policy transfer, and global governance. These are some of the main factors which are there, and by nature, these are international suprastate influences. Now, they are there. We have their legacy in industrialization, changing economic, demographic, and social structures, which would result into interests, collective actors, power resources, class movements, and political parties. Now, the same international suprastate influences are also going to have their implications directly upon social interests, while industrialization would also lead into these interests. Similarly, we have institutions, nation building, citizenship, states, constitutions, and political systems. Now, the framework, the theoretical or conceptual framework behind such interests and institutions or ideas, and even these international suprastate influences will also have their direct implications upon such ideas like culture, ideologies of social and political nature, epistemic communities, and policy learning, ideas lending into interests, ideas lending into institutions, and then ideas turning into social policy outputs in exactly the same manner as these institutions would do. And then social policy outputs yielding into welfare outcomes. So this is just a complex interrelationship of how social policies work together and how are they developed and what are they carved for. Just a recapitulation of what a social policy would look like and what are the various areas that it is going to address, like taxes, poverty, disability, unemployment, education, credit, reform, money, responsibility, training, vulnerable workforce, access, system, work, welfare, taxpayer, ideas, security, creativity, sustainability, disadvantage, local, economy, protection, social, confidence, policy, reform, choice. There's no order. You can go through across or you can go through down from top to bottom. These are some, these are not in total. It's not from A to Z, a whole set of alphabets. These are some of the major areas of concern that a social policy is going to address one way or the other. Now, if you are going to learn sociology and earn a major degree, so what are you likely to be? Before we proceed with three major careers, policy consultant, a policy, or more particularly, a social policy consultant, is an expert in either or some of the careers in public service, policy, or government. A policy consultant carries out research, interpret data from social surveys and research publications, and make connections between social policy and the real world around us. Now, a policy consultant can work at the government level, at the non-government level, for a profiteering or not for profit organization. It can be, again, purely academic or utilitarian, or a blend of the two creeds or brands of research. Sociologist as a researcher. The foremost duty of a sociologist as a researcher is to discover and organize knowledge about human social life. A sociologist researcher is found in a public, and when we say public, it purely means government and private sector organization. As a researcher, a sociologist has to differentiate between the myths and realities of the social world. It is to go through for a demarcation between the common sense and science. In a loose or in a larger perspective, we may say that every research, more particularly social research, whether it's sociology or any other academic discipline, it is going to have the demarcation between common sense and actual scientific realities based on verifiable cause-effect relationships. Sociologist as a policy consultant, a sociologist as a social and public policy consultant tailor up the policies, predict the anticipated outcomes, and recommend what should be done in the pursuit of their development. For example, what effects can school and college dropouts, people who just find it halfway, or people who just cannot end their academic career and leave it halfway, these are called dropouts, imply on the lives of youth, and what could be done to minimize the ratio of these dropouts. Here, there is a table of top 20 isomers social consulting firms. Research is an industry and a profiteering enterprise. These are the top 20 world brands in social consultancy. And if you just go through the turnover that they are going to have, and this is from Isomer's Global Market Research Report for 2019. So the turnover is 9,008 million US dollars per annum. And over here we have the 20th one as 474 million. So it's so lucrative. We have companies and consultancies in the United States, Ireland, United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Japan. Sociologist as a teacher. A sociologist as a teacher is in the pursuit of pure and or applied knowledge of the discipline. It is dynamic and interactive. The career ranges from school to university level. In addition, we find online, formal, and informal courses in sociology. You can be confined to academic discipline either or continue carrying out research as well. To put it into a nutshell, sociology is a dynamic science. It gives us insight of our social being. It tells us what we are, how we have become so, and what impact does our social being have upon others and vice versa. Take care of yourselves, stay home, and stay safe.